yes. Just bring this down a little bit. Trusting you can hear me. Trusting you can hear me. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm working on my intro. I'm working on my intro. I'm working on my intro. So this is Mirror Work Conversations with Lady O. We have Brother Andy in the house today. Here in Canada, it is a long weekend. So many are still chillaxing. I thank you so much, Brother Andy, for jumping on today and coming on live with me to share your journey in mirror work from a man's perspective. So, how are you doing today? How is your day going so far?
Well, I think it's a long vacation in America also.
Oh, it's over. You know what? It's so possible because we share so many weekends, but not under the same heading. Like, it's like it would be a long weekend, but we would call it one thing. They will call it a different thing, but it'll still be a long weekend. So if you are listening south of the border, hello to you as well. And trusting that you had an amazing day today, if today is also a long weekend for you. So, Brother Andy, without further ado, first, for anyone that want to get more information on Brother Andy, we have two intro videos on the Mirror Work Conversation YouTube page, and Brother Andy introduced himself there. And actually, I let me see if I could pull it up for us, and we can probably see if we can do that intro. I just thought of that. I said, you know what? Let me see if we can actually do that intro for you. But without further, I'm gonna pull it out. But you know what? As I'm doing that, you can just introduce yourself to the audience, Brother Andy, as I get your intro going.
Well, I consider myself an urbanite. That's how I consider myself. I'm a urbanite. I've been in Canada for a number of years now. I've worked with youth from a very biblical point of view in an urban setting. And it's, well, I would say it's a love of mine because the youth have always been something that's been dear to my heart. So I've always been in a setting working with them, even inside of the church. So I consider myself, you could say, a youth pastor, if we still use that terminology.
Right, right,
Because,
right.
yeah. So I consider myself a youth pastor, and I've worked with the youth for a little bit of a while. I came up from the street settings in Canada for a little bit. I was on the street for many more. I went revisited the streets maybe a couple of years back. I went through a change in time for I think it was for us all. I think it was for humanity, really. Because as I was wondering, why was it about why? Because sometimes we ask the creator why are all these things happening, etc. Because you check the book, you're like, okay, I'm doing my stuff, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Why is all these things happening? And you ask the creator why, and sometimes down the road the answer comes. And I think it was for all of creation, because something opened up for me for the book of Revelation, which would not have happened had it not been my stay at Salvation Army for a little bit of a while after Scott Mission. So Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a journey, but one thing that's been constant with me has been Christ. He's been my center point. He's been my focal point. He's been my strength and my stay through it all. As the song goes, through it all, we've learned to trust in Jesus. Well, through it all, it's been Yeshua that's been my strength. Yeshua, of course, is Jesus's Hebrew name. It's been my strength for through it all. It's been Yeshua that's been keeping me. So yeah,
Beautiful, beautiful, brother Andy. And the reason why I'm so happy that we were able to connect, and you said, yeah, some Mondays you can definitely swing by on Mayor Work podcast, because as I said, Mayor Work conversations and my coaching is specifically for mothers and women who are leaving narcissistic environments, toxic relationships, traumatic experiences, or vice versa, toxic environments, narcissistic relationships, and traumatic experiences. And I assist them in getting out and being able to do it mind, body, health, everything intact, or get them back to the way that they're supposed to be, the mirror image of who they were before all of these things happened. And I still am very aware that men do also go through toxic environments, narcissistic relationships, and traumatic experiences. So I always said, for the men to still pull up and still listen to the podcast, still interact with us on the YouTube channel. Although my focus is on women and mothers, and people say, isn't there the difference? I said, well, a mother is a woman that have children. You could be a woman and not a mother as yet, right? So, and then people are like,
mhm.
oh, okay, I get it. And I know there are many men and fathers, single fathers. I know we talk a lot about single mothers, but there's a lot of single fathers out there that are not being represented, because when we think about single parenting, we always go towards the mom, because predominantly that is who is demographically the one left raising the children, or the child. And I am very cognizant and very aware. I know some personally, single fathers that's been doing it from since the child was, baby. I reached out to one in particular to see if he would mind coming on the podcast to share his journey, because his journey is phenomenal, similar to yours. So I'm really happy that you're able to come by and share from a man's perspective the mirror work journey, the coaching, and how you were able to use mirror work from a man's perspective, to get you through what you went through. And again, I'm just really, really appreciative, because it's always great to have balance in every conversation. And this is definitely one of those conversations that we also need to hear the men's perspective. So, without further ado, you can start off from where you feel like it. And it's basically, as I said, from a male's perspective, how has mirror work benefited you to become the man that you are today? And then the follow up would be, in your opinion, what is the first crucial step for a man when he's stepping into mirror work? So you can take it from wherever your energy feels to start off. The floor is yours.
Well, I have to say, um, when it comes to fathers, especially single fathers, we have to give them a round of applause, because that is, I know that women have been doing it for years. I mean, especially unfortunately in our community, the mothers have been the one who's been carrying it for so long. But for a father to be doing that, that is something that's, I don't know. I mean, a lot of persons would say I'm a strong person, but I don't know. Excuse me. I don't know if I, by myself, as a single father, how I would have been pulling it off. I know I've set myself up when it comes to my sons. I set myself up in the way that I think that I would have it done when I consider my father, what he did, and what I think was bravo and what I think was ono. I set myself up for the way that I think that it should have gone before society stepped in. And when I should say society, the court with their schism set in and did what they did, right? I set myself up to run the course the way I think it should be done as a male in our society. And I think everything was going fine as far as I was concerned because we had my favorite hobbies, which was computer science. That's my favorite hobby. So we had my favorite hobby, and we also had movie night. We had library days, we had tennis days, and we had different things that we would do throughout the summer vacation. And I thought that we had set the thing up fine before the system steps in and started to shake the ground on which I walk on. And it's funny because when we talk about mirror work as um, a handle, right? I think I think that it's reflecting the creator, being a reflection of what the creator is, being a reflection of what he is or what we should be. What we're talking about is Garden of Eden before the fall kind of stuff. Except before the fall, we were ignorant of the bad side of the equation. We had knowledge of the good, but not knowledge of the evil. And it's funny because when the serpent attacked, the serpent said, "Do you think that God is trying to get you to not know what good and evil is, right?" And now the thing about it is that they had already had knowledge of the good, but what they did not have was knowledge of the evil. So now we're getting the knowledge of the evil, and through the knowledge of the evil, sin and death came into the world, right? And that mirror work is what I think we are working on, getting ourselves back into a reflection of the Most High, being representative of the Most High. What would you say, Oladio?
No, you're absolutely right. That is the mirror coaching. That the reason why I coined it to me. It's intellectual property, if you want to call it that. It's very unique, and the premise of it is for the mother, the woman. As I said, I my demographic is for mothers and women that are leaving environments, relationships, and experiences that's toxic, narcissistic, and traumatic, is for them to return back to the mirror image, the original state of who woman was intended to be, the mirror image of who they were intended to be, their purpose before the toxic was poured on them, before people threw up on them. In some places they'll say vomit up on them, before the scratches and the bruises and the abuse and the neglect and the feeling of, you know, the ungratefulness. Before all of that stuff, that woman was a young lady, was a girl, and there was a purpose, and her purpose was never to be anybody's doormat or anybody's spit bucket. What happens is, as a result of society, we've lost the mirror image of what it is to be a woman. When the Most High said, "Let us make man in our image," I actually had this conversation with my 12-year-old son, who's turning 13 soon, because we're doing our devotions, and we always take time to go back to Genesis, and also he's right now in the book of Proverbs, and we're going through that. And I do that with all of my children. We all, they stray away, but they have foundation. They say, train up a child in the way that the child should go, so when they come of age it don't depart. So nobody could never say mommy never. Right? They might stray away, but they could never say mommy never. So keeping that alive with the 12-year-old. He does his devotions. He's in the book of Proverbs. My first son, I told him to dedicate his devotion to Psalms, specifically Psalms 1. That was actually his namesake, Psalms 1. And for my second son, Ezekiel, also dedicated to him his chapter, his book, Ezekiel, and there's specific chapters for him. So for my third son, he's in the book of Proverbs, and we're talking about, I believe we are in chapter 19, and it talked about in the beginning, where with wisdom is where God, the Most High, founded the earth. With understanding is what was used to separate the depths, and with knowledge, that is how we get the dew from the clouds and everything else that occurred. And for many years, when that epiphany occurred to me, I went back to Genesis, and I saw where understanding and where knowledge were. And then if you go through the book of Proverbs, every time wisdom, understanding, and knowledge are spoken, it's always spoken with the she or the her pronoun. It will say, my son, right? Hold on to wisdom. She is like this. She is like this. Her this. Those three attributes, wisdom, understanding, and knowledge, are always represented in the feminine. And then specifically in Proverbs 19, it tells you that wisdom was the one, what was needed. Wisdom is what took place to even to form the earth. Without wisdom, it would not have been here. And wisdom is always being attributed as a her or a she. Same thing with understanding, and same with knowledge. So when we go back to Genesis now, we go back to Genesis chapter 1, and we move on. It says right at the beginning, where it talks about the Spirit of the Lord, the earth was without form and the Spirit covered. We go back to the Spirit, and it talks about even now in man, they talk about the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. They never even want to give respect to where respect due, that the woman is the Spirit. You can't have the Father, you can't have a Son without a female. Reproduction is feminine. So even in the disrespect of women, they still have to include us, because without us, there's nothing. Yet they still cannot say Father, Son, and Mother. They cannot say male, female, and offspring, right? And the Son. So when people misrepresent the Son as if the Son just means male, as in the gender, right? This is where religion has done such a disservice. And I believe some of it is intentional to keep the people hooked. Because if the truth of what spiritual application is to be, lots of them would go out of business, because a church is a non-charitable organization. It's a business.
I think that they usually look at the woman as Israel. I think that's what they usually do. They look at the father as God. Excuse me. They look at the father as God, and they look at the mother as Israel, and the child as in the Messiah. I think that's how they usually look at it. The father as in God, the woman as in Israel, and the child as the Messiah.
You'll be sadly mistaken that when you says that's what you think they do. No, they don't. Especially in Western Christianity, they really believe the application is the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. It's just the Spirit of God. They do not equate it to the biblical application. So when you go back to Genesis, it shows you where it says the Spirit of the Lord covered the earth. You go back to Proverbs, and it tells you without wisdom, wisdom is what was founded the earth. So if you allow discernment to make you put one on one together, it's still two. When Proverbs is telling you wisdom is what founded the earth, and when you go through Genesis, it says, the earth was without form, it was void, and then the Spirit of the Lord covered the earth. And then after that, now is where earth became earth. So when it talked about the Spirit was wisdom, because Proverbs says that the earth
Yeah.
was founded with wisdom. Chapter 1 says it was without form, and then the Spirit of the Most High covered the earth. And then we talk about the Father, Son, and the Spirit. So I'm like, okay, so the Spirit is continually being represented as wisdom, and the book itself equates wisdom as a her, as a she, as feminine. So man could try to hide all they want to hide it. When human being begin to desire a one-on-one relationship with the Most High, these epiphanies or these nuggets that people would talk about, or when other people talk, they're like, oh my God, mind blowing. And I'm just like, I was just in this training a couple days ago, and I'm looking at the chat, and people are falling off their seat with the way the presenter was presenting it. And my facial expression to the entire thing was just very bland, because I'm thinking, you guys didn't know this? Like, to me, it was a conviction on how Western Christianities, or just Christian period, how they are still babies. Because the thing this man was saying that was so profound and people are blowing their minds, I'm thinking this should not be new. And it's
Jesus
not
to Nicodemus.
right. Yeah, I'm like, this should not be new. So I'm like,
Are you a leader of Israel and do not know these things?
right. So I am, again, this is where I'm thinking, okay, how are these people being so dumbstruck with these quote unquote revelations? And then a pastor was in the chat and came on and talked about, and the pastor himself was saying how the person was bringing church, and he's bringing revelation. And I'm thinking, you're a pastor and you yourself are being blown away by this revelation. I'm thinking, here I am, and this revelation that this person is presenting came to me a long time ago. And then the thing
Well,
about it is, if they fast forward, because in the group they ask you to introduce yourself. My first video way back at the beginning of the group introducing myself, I expanded and expounded on that. But you see, this is the thing about human beings. We give so much to calling people. That's why it says many are called, few are chosen. We call people so many things that the few who are chosen will say the same thing, and the called, what man called them with all the letters behind their name, would be the one that people hear. So I was just in the audience, or in the room, and I was just shocked, and honestly I was embarrassed because of how everybody was responding like this was revelation. And I'm thinking, how much babies are you in Christ where you did not know this? So when this brother dropped this quote unquote bomb, you will just be like, okay, brother, got it. Keep on going. Let me hear some other stuff. But this is why we over here in the West, and even in the Caribbean, we're very guilty of it. We are easily tickled, and we can swing from the chandelier with a little bit of revelation that we believe is dumbfounded. And this is why we keep getting hustled by a lot of these pulpit pimps and preachers, prostitutes, because we are not spending time in the word for ourselves. So because we call these people by these last names and these credentials that they go through the system with, we rely on them, and the little bit that they expound on, we fall off, right? And then we get hustled. And all they needed to do was actually spend time in the word and desire to be the mirror image of who they were supposed to be, go right back to the direct connection with the Most High. When the Most High said it is finished, it was for that same purpose, that we do not need a middle person anymore. We can get the direct interpretation, the download, the revelation, whatever people want to call it, the golden nuggets. We can get it directly from the throne and not through a mediator. So I just wanted to say that, to say, when you say, oh, I think they mean the Father is God and the woman is Israel, I'm like, no, many really still are stuck on what was told to them about the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. And it's the Mary and the Jesus. Like, it's very carnal in the way that they're seeing it. And Proverbs and Genesis literally spills it right out on the pages for who have ears to hear and who has eyes to see that the Spirit of the Most High is the feminine, the reproduction. You look through nature, you look through everything, through us. That is why when it said, let us make man, I always ask, who is the us? Who is he talking to, himself? Is he schizophrenic? Is he like he has multiple personalities? Who is he talking to when he says, when it says, let us make man? And I'm like, who's the us? Who's his crew? Who was he moving with? Right? And then it goes back. Proverbs tell you the Most High was moving with wisdom. The Most High was moving with understanding, was moving with knowledge. And those three is what was present in the formation of everything from day 1 to day 7. Well, day 7, they all rested. So when it says, let us, the us indicates that there were more than one present in the making. And what is the us image? Make us, man, the mirror image of the us. Who's the us? We are the mirror image of wisdom, my brother. We ought to be the mirror image of wisdom. We ought to be the mirror image of understanding and of knowledge. That is who was part of creation in Genesis. And Proverbs 19 actually breaks it down to you and tells you where wisdom was in day 1, where understanding was, and where knowledge was. It actually tells you where each one of their roles played a part in creation. And in Proverbs, each one of them are always represented as she or her. So that tells you that woman, who we are, the feminine, reproduction, nurturing, all of that, we were part of the creation. We were part of the us. And that is where, as mothers and as women, we need to go back to the mirror image of who we were when the us said, let's make man. The floor is yours, my brother.
Well, I think that mirror works because that's basically the handle that we use. Mirror works. I think that was an amazing revelation because I mean, God once made man in His image, and if God made him in His image, it's a mirror works. Now, it's funny to me that Hollywood seems to be picking up the chair that you're talking about because there's a movie coming out. It's called The Woman King, I believe it's called. There's a movie coming out, The Woman's King, and then there's Wakanda Forever, which is Black Panther. And in both of them, they're showforthing the leadership of women from the ground level, right? And there's this one that's out right now, and it's called, well, actually, there's two of them out right now. One is Honk If You Love Jesus, and the other one is 2,300 Years of Longing or something. And that one's more of a Muslim point
A Muslim point of view
from about the jinn.
Yeah.
Well, it's more about not, because when you read the Quran, it tells you about this class that's called a jinn, and you only meet that word I think once in the Bible, but it comes up a lot in the Quran, and it's about this professor and a jinn. But Honk If You Love Jesus is more our avenue, and I want to know if, well, people could plug in here. I want to know if they take it too far, because at the end of the movie, they finish the movie under the first lady of the church, right? That's how they finished the movie. They frame in on her, and they basically left the next step kind of up to her, right? But I want to know if people think that they took the movie too far,
Is
because
it
it's an
out? Is it out in theater? It is out already because I haven't seen it yet. Because I definitely would like to give you feedback on it. Is it out already?
well. Yes, it is. It started. It came out 2 days ago. Either two
Okay.
days, Friday. It
Okay.
came out on Friday, right? And I went.
Is it on Netflix or movie theaters?
It's in movie theaters right
Okay.
now.
All right. I'm gonna check it out. I just wanted to correct myself. It's not Proverbs 19. It's Proverbs chapter 3, verse 19, when it breaks down where wisdom,
Proverbs
understanding,
three
and knowledge.
nineteen.
Yeah. Proverbs chapter 3, verse 19, verse 20. Um, both of them breaks it down. But my son and I, we were focusing on from 19, and I think we ended at 26 today. But yeah, from verse 19 and 20 in Proverbs chapter 3 is that, we talk about, they say the keys, the keys that unlocks a lot of understand a lot of understanding. It says, that's why it says seek wisdom, and she's there. She's, she wants to be sought. And again, as I said, wisdom is always being spoken as a female. So it's Proverbs chapter 3, verse 19 and 20 that breaks down. And then Genesis chapter 1 breaks down for you the stages of where wisdom was, from 1 to 5, where understanding took over from 6 to 8, and knowledge is from 9 all the way to 22. That's the revelation that I saw when you break down what each one of those sections represented. So the third, fourth, and fifth day were knowledge. Day 1 was wisdom, and day 2 was understanding, and from 3, 4 up to 5 was knowledge. And again, that piggybacks over on Proverbs 3:19, where it tells you what role wisdom played. That wisdom hath founded the earth. Then what role understanding played, where understanding established the heavens. So that's day 2. And by knowledge, the depths were broken up and the clouds dropped down dew. So, they say gems are there, and it's for those who go to find and dig. That it's right. It's something they say that it's right in front of you, but you have to go looking for it. But continue, my brother. So I'm definitely gonna go take a look at that movie myself.
Well, yeah, I think you should, because I was looking through it, and I was like, oh my goodness, and I was like, wait, no, they're not going to know, and then I'm like, no, they didn't, right? Because it's honk if you love Jesus, and it's about the church, but it's almost like, you remember the what was her name, Tammy. Tammy Faye. I said Tammy Faye.
Yeah,
You
Tammy
remember the
Faye. Yeah,
Tammy
back in the day. Yeah.
back in the days?
Like
Yeah.
yeah,
It's it
the
it's
Jimmy
it's like
Swaggart,
their
the
church.
Jimmy Swaggart
It's
era, right?
yeah, it's their church, but actually they use black actors,
Oh,
right? So it's their church,
actors
but
of African descent.
African Americans, African
African descent.
Americans,
Okay,
right?
I'm
Yeah,
gonna take a
because
look at it.
the story, I'm saying, because if you're looking at a storyline, right? If you're supposed to say, okay, well, when did this ever happen? Well, you could, some persons will say, wait a minute, it happened with Tammy them, right?
Oh,
Because that's what happened of a mega church, and then there's an indiscretion, if
Right.
you want to call it.
Right.
And then after the time of the indiscretion, they're getting ready to reopen the church. And so he's there and he's like, honk if you want Jesus. And he's like, I gotta save souls, I gotta save souls. And
Mm-hmm.
he's telling the woman to go all out to woo the people back into the church, but they're
Mm.
using very, say, carnal means, if you want to call it
Mm.
that, to
Yeah.
doing it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But right, and then of course they have them in their rides and they're doing hip hop, and
Tanya, yeah.
I don't want
As you
to
say, no,
I don't
as
want to
I know you don't want to give it all away, but as you say, they're
yeah
bringing the people back into the church in the carnal way, and that's the
yeah
problem of the church right now. We're very, very, very carnal, and that is why when you have people dropping things that mature Christians should already know, they're falling off their seat like they just got this big epiphany. It just shows you that they're still baby drinking from milk and they're not able to cut and chew their food themselves. But but I want us to go back to your journey, your mirror work journey, and how mirror work assisted you, and what would you say would be the first step that a man should take when he starts mirror work. I just want to get back to your journey because I know we're on a 45 minute
yeah.
time commitment.
Well,
Oh,
with
oh, oh,
me,
oh, sorry, brother Andy. So Instagram, I'm just gonna come off right now. If you've watched this on the replay, the link for the channel is in my bio. We're gonna continue this conversation over on the YouTube channel. The podcast itself will be uploaded. Um, to today is Monday. Will be uploaded on Tuesday. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Continue, brother Andy.
yeah, well, with me, it's always Christ. I mean, if you know the answer, right? You don't even have to worry about when the question comes because you know the answer.
Right.
And one thing I've always known is that Jesus Christ is the answer. So no matter what happens, I will always and ever be upon that rock of Jesus Christ, right? So I do not know how to find a balance, how to find a center, how to find a finishing point without Jesus, right? Because that's just how I see it. So when everything, and I would say he's the author and he's the finisher of my faith, right? So I would just lean upon him, and in him I will see all the works being done. I would see him putting stuff together and I would just glorify him, right? Because I think that's one of the stuff that we're here to do, to glorify Jesus. I mean, he is the embodiment of heaven and he is the creation from earth. He created himself, if you want to put it that way. He created himself and he came down here to show us the way that we should walk by. And so what that's the way that I see that I move when I'm down here on the earth. I also, in looking to Christ, see my shortcomings because I know what he says that we are. I know how he says that we should move, and I know how I would differ from that and how I would fall short, right? And in that aspect, I will go to him on my knees and I would go and I would say, you know what, Holy Father, you know, you're the one who has given us the ability to rise above all these things. Because of your blood, we have the um, victory over sin. And so give me this victory, right? And until sometimes the victory is met, we know that we have his blood as the atoning promise for that victory, right? Today I went out early in the morning I went out early in the morning. And I went out on one of my walks with him because I walk with him. I went out on one of my walks with him and I was telling him, I was like, Jesus, I need you. I was like, from since I've been in this country, right? From since I've been in this country, I have brought every single care and every single qualm to you. And without a doubt, I've seen you taking care of it time and time and time again, you know? And I was like, I need you now more than ever, right? I never see myself
I
lead
I just
for
lost.
the
I just
master.
sorry.
I,
We lost your connection. I don't want you. I want the audience to hear. You said I lost it when you said we, and then you cut out. You're saying that you're speaking to Yeshua, and you're telling Yeshua that you need him, and from the time you've come to this country, you've brought everything to him, and then you cut out.
Yes, I was saying from the time I come to this country, I brought everything to him, and he has, without shadow of a doubt, given me victory over everything. And now I'm here, and I'm like, now we're at this new aspect, because now I'm beginning to start songwriting, right? After since I found out that from Revelations chapter 10 that all things would be free in the future, and we found this out in 2017 that all things are free from Revelations chapter 10. That's what the angel said when he revealed it, and then it was sealed up until the last days. Well, this is the last days, and all things are to be free, right? Ever since that, I've started into a songwriting mode, right? And so I'm here now, and I'm like, well, it's time to start writing these songs and start making all these psalms to you, right? But who is best to write the song but you yourself? So I need you to come within me, right? Well, I did not exactly say it this way, but what I did say is that I need you to lead me. I need you to lead me on to what the next plateau would be, right? As for being here right now today, it's just God's grace. That's all I could think about. It's just God's grace because there's been so many times in the past when things could have gone so awfully wrong. There's been so many times when things could be I could have died. There's been a lot of time when you could have died,
Oh yes, we all many times,
right?
many times.
And I mean that's another podcast and another day. But
Yes.
there's so many times past when I could have died and I wouldn't be here right now. To a time like this, and I praise him and I thank him.
No, I don't know if you're moving around because we lost you again. You said there's so many times where you could not have been here. You're speaking about the many near deaths situations that has come your way, and yeah, there's another podcast in my own because yes, you know a lot about my interaction with death and how when it comes I definitely let it know that it does not have the final say. So hence why I say I know my calling is to mothers and to women. But we lost you when you said you had many near death experience and then the connection went out again. If you could remember your thought.
Yeah, well, I said there's a many near death situation, but as for the way that I'm here now, it's just grace. It's just God's grace that He kept me and He brought me forth. So now that I'm here, I'm going to glorify Him and I'm going to exalt Him because He's the reason why I got the victory.
Definitely. Faith and this is part of the mirror work we talk when we talk about it is always taking full accountability for our roles in many of the situations because some many times if when we when we get out of the experience, or we get out of the hurt, and now we actually sit with ourselves, and we sit with the Most High, and we allow wisdom, we allow understanding and knowledge to be with us, because they were part of the creation process. And when we were made in the image of the us incorporated them. They were part of the us. So when we're in our quiet place and things around us has calmed down, and part of the mirror work coaching is to always have my clients in mindful meditation and be present. Part of the mirror work is the taking of accountability of signs or warning signs, or the decisions that we made that exposed us to those near death experiences, or the narcissist, or the trauma, or the toxic environments. Now, there are some incidences that we had no control over, right? It's some adult or someone that jumps in our life, jumps in our journey, and brings on this negative, right? So the mirror work is where we stop and we take stock, we take accountability, we take inventory on, was this experience a lesson that I need to learn as a result of my part in it, right? And if I didn't have a part in it, and it's totally some toxic, dark, hurtful person that just jumped in my life and saw that, hey, let me just vomit up myself on this person. If you had no hand in the experience, this is where you release it. Both of them, you release it, your part in it, or someone just jumping in your life because they're just dark. And they say hurt people just like to go around and hurt other people, because misery does love company. It makes them good to impart misery on other people, because they don't want to be the only one suffering, right? So when we establish, is this someone who is just dark and wants to spread darkness, or is this a situation where there was some disobedience, there was some deaf ears, there was some stiff neck, there was some, no, I want to do it my way, where we have to analyze. And that's where, if we look at the we really true analyze the story of Job, that's the process that Job went through. It's the, what did I do? Why is this happening to me? I regret the day I was born, and trying to figure out what to blame. Is it my birth to blame? Is it my presence to blame? Did I do something? Then you have the friends that says, well, hey, you must have done something. Once you look back in your past, and then you start to see the true feelings of the friends that are trying to say, well, with everything that you got, and you might as well, and you're always walking around so righteous, and you're walking around so weary, and hey, here something's happening to you. So you start to see the true essence of the friends. And then you have Job's spouse, the wife herself, right? And at a come point in time where Job just realized that, nah, man, nah, none of that. No, you know what? You give me, you take it. Absolutely nothing I've done. This is, you know what? And that is where the mirror work comes in, where you have to allow yourself to grieve. You have to allow yourself to feel. I know from many of my situations, I never got a chance to grieve or feel, because I always had to manage. I was the go-to person for everyone, where I never had a person to go to really download and analyze. So in part of that, hence why I am so called to mothers, because mothers, our automatic is, we're always going to put ourselves last, because we have to shelter and guard and the children and their mental health, their advice. And it's always about others and serving others. And we are always the last one. And as a result of that, things pop up out of us, because we haven't settled it yet, right? So mirror work is giving mothers and women that Job processing time, right? Where, where it's not the friend or the wife, showing up. I'm the one that's there as a coach, and I'm very objective, as a result of wanting them to return to their mirror image prior to all this. And part of that is definitely taking accountability so they don't rinse and repeat it. They don't rinse and repeat it. They just don't think it's somebody else. And it's like, okay, no, let's be honest. What stage of that did you ignore? Did you pretend that you didn't see it? Did you want to give the benefit of doubt? Did you believe that you could fix it? Did you believe, and there's a lot of different reasons why women and mothers stay in something, or they said yes to someone when they had no business even touching that person with a 10-foot pole, but they did anyways, right? And again, total accountability. Because if they don't take total accountability, they're going to rinse and repeat and touch another person that they should not even touch with a 10-foot pole. So it's about getting to that mirror image of wisdom, being wise in who you say yes to, where you say yes to, how you say yes to, the understanding of your when, where, and how, and your why, right? And then the knowledge of how to apply. So we have to return back to the mirror image of always having wisdom, understanding, and knowledge moving with us and being a part of who we are. That is when we would be authentically the mirror image of the I am. Take it away.
I see. Well, that's some very profound truths that you're talking about there. And that's coming from a person that would know what they're talking about.
Yes, you
When it
do.
comes,
Yeah, yeah, you do know. You do know a big portion of my life journey. You do know a big portion of it.
yeah, so, I mean, I one thing I would like to say to all the women listening to this is that when you come to this person that you're hearing talking, you come to a person that have a lot of experience in these things and in a lot of different levels of these things, and it's been going on for a long time. So I mean, it's not anything that is new. We're not talking about somebody who's just been in this thing yesterday. We're talking about somebody who's been in this game for a very, very long time when it comes to mirror works.
Thank you so much, Brother Andy, for that endorsement. I appreciate it. And as the viewers and as more people get to know me and people share and word of mouth, and I get a team on board that, I can hire some social media experts and we can get me up and out there. They will get to know more of my journey and my why now. It's like, okay, this is the season. That's what the Most High, that's what they said to me. This is the season of mirror work, 2022. This is the season of mirror work, because what is lying ahead of us, we let me tell you, people, a lot of people really are they're thinking that we're coming through the worst of it, or a lot of people are finding ways to make money during this, and money is great. I'm not gonna knock the currency that man made, because we are still living in a man-made world if we choose to always move that way. The sad part about it is the rinse and repeat cycle of man, and I say man, human, so women, you are included. The rinse and repeat cycle of man is that we do not learn from history. We do not learn our lessons from our ancestors. We do not. We fail to learn the lessons. And it's not that the lessons are hidden, the lessons are right there, but the pride of man, and I said, women, you're a part of this. The pride of man is that we really truly believe that this is not about us, or we've evolved so much, it's not the same thing. Like that pride, and it says pride comes before a fall, and it's a fall of all or a fall of one. Pride is still always there before the fall. And it's this prideful thing and this arrogance of our refinement and our cultured and our advancement, that we really believe that the fall of other humans and other civilizations and other things that happen to other people, we believe it's just that, other people. And we do not see the patterns of repeat. And as a result of that, mankind is always going to be in this groundhog effect of repeating over and over and over and be like, weren't we here? Yes, 10 generations ago, 3 generations ago, 5 generations ago. Yep, we were here. And we're right back to the dot on the map that says, boop, you are here. We're still at that dot. It's just like the children in Israel. They wander, 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 going around in circles. It's like, yeah, you're still there. We're not gonna get to the promised land, and a lot of people are
Yes.
people are thinking the promised land is a physical thing or this spiritual thing that's gonna come from the sky. But the promised land is when we really truly get that the mirror image of us is going to reveal the mirror image of creation, where heaven returns back to earth. And as a result of the pimps on the pulpit and the prostitutes in the pulpit, they don't desire for heaven to return because that will be the end of their business. And heaven will only return when humanity, man, returns back to the mirror image of who they were. Then they will realize that we do not need pulpits, we do not need intercessors, we do not need mediators. When we stop relying on people to drop the mic and feed us some revelation, when we get away from that and we return to the mirror image of direct contact, direct communication, direct relationship, that's how it was. It was broken, it was returned back, it was told you it is finished, and we still are stuck in not finishing what was said to be finished. You have the floor, my brother.
Well, that's it for me for tonight. I've
Awesome.
kind of I've kind of finished my list. I've kind of gotten what I've wanted to get out there tonight.
I appreciate it. So before we wrap up, I know we did touch on your journey and what you said, how mirror work was important for you, and the crucial first step of mirror work. If you just want to repeat that again, because I know we said a lot, but I want to make sure that at the end of it that the listeners get the answers to that from a man's perspective. We've talked about how it benefited you. What would what is in your opinion? What's a crucial first step of a man entering into mirror work?
Crucial first step is to go to Christ.
Awesome.
That's my crucial first step, to go to Christ. There's a Bible here. If it's the most sold book every year. They give them out free if you get the Gideons, get a Bible, get into it, get into the books, learn how Jesus talked. I was on the Bible, I was with the Bible on the bus, and some guy said some kind of offhanded comment about the neighborhood I was in. And I told him, it's beautiful words are in this book. Read the book. It's some beautiful words, man.
Forget about the neighborhood. Yeah, don't get distracted by the shiny objects that man likes people to focus on. The fear. Get into the book, and I would wrap it up by saying, once you get into the book and you get to know Yeshua, when you get to know the Most High, you get to know Jesus, you get to know the Son, you get to know truth. Please invite wisdom, invite understanding, and invite knowledge to your table, to your process, to your reading. As you open up and you get into the word, desire for those three women, those three feminine qualities that the book says are feminine. Desire them to be part of your process in getting to hear what the word is saying, because many read it from how the pastor tell them, and I tell people you have to unlearn everything, because that's how I started my mirror work. The first crucial step for me, to answer my own question that I posed to you, Brother Andy, the first crucial step to me was to unlearn everything that I was taught, because I knew there came a point in time when I realized that without a shadow of a doubt that I needed to experience this thing that we call relationship firsthand. I needed the stories and the words to come off of the pages and truly be living, because I told the Most High, my children are watching. They're watching, they're seeing the world getting away with murder, they're getting away with narcissism, they see shortcuts. My children are hearing about you from me, but they're seeing the world from many close to them, and they're seeing that in their mind it pays to be that. They're not seeing the manifestation of the truth, right? So I said, listen, you gotta come off the pages and you gotta be real. And it said, okay. I asked for wisdom, I asked understanding, and I asked knowledge to show me. And the first thing I heard was, you have to unlearn everything. Everything you thought, you just clean slate, wipe it clean, and question everything that you were told, and I'll give you the answer. We, the us that made man in their image, the us would reveal truth. And patience is definitely something that it told me I needed to work on, so it didn't give me the answers quickly. It didn't give me the answers right away, because it says part of your thing is patience, right? I was like, Lord, you
Oh
know
my
me so well.
goodness.
I'm like, you know me so well, don't. So anyhow, so thank you so much, Brother Andy. I really appreciate you coming through this Monday from Mirror Work Conversations with Lady O. I know you're always available on Mondays. I'm rotating between you and Althea Fraser. I'm looking to see if I can get Athanasia back on, and Brianna Kilpack back on. But with those ladies, if they're not available, it will be rotating with you and Althea Fraser, or just you, or just me. However the spirit moves, we're just gonna go with the flow. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Any other last words before we sign off?
Amen, man. Go for mirror works. It's what we're supposed to be.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much, Brother Andy. So that was Brother Andy joining me for Mirror Work Conversations today. This is episode 7. Um, Again, as I said on the YouTube channel, Brother Andy has a bio there of him. But I'm just gonna play you there's two bios. There's one that's a minute and one, and there's another bio of Brother Andy that is a minute and 7 seconds. So I'm gonna play you the minute and 1 second of Brother Andy for you, just to get familiar with him, and head on over to our YouTube channel. Please subscribe, share, let us know what you think about our episodes, and contact information is there for you to reach out to me to start your mirror work coaching. Without further ado, here's the intro of Brother Andy.
You know what? Don't be afraid. God's got you. All different struggles in your life, but think of it as a
I'm just gonna pull it back, as they say here.
building
I'm just
block.
gonna
A
pull
building
it back.
block.
I remember back in my DJ days. It says wheel and come again, selector. Hold on. So I'm gonna just pull it
You know
back.
what? Don't be afraid.
There we go. Let me make sure the volume is as high as possible, because a little bit low on my end, so hopefully you can hear it. And here we go.
You know what? Don't be afraid. God's got you. You may go through a lot of different struggles in your life, but think of it as a building block to move from one step to the other. There's a lot of things that goes on in everybody's life, and sometimes things get to be so hectic that we wonder what is everything going to be like? How am I going to move on? What's the next step? All these are things that comes, and sometimes it seems like it's going to overwhelm us. But what you know is that God's got you. Don't ever worry about how everything is taking up place. All you do is that you take one step at a time, and sure enough, everything will fall into place. Like I said, my name is Brother Andy, and I've been doing a lot of youth mentoring over the years, and it'll be nice to continue on with this new venture. Thank you very much, and talk to you later.
So that is Brother Andy, his 1 minute video on the YouTube channel. He has another video there. So feel free to go over and get to know Brother Andy and the other guests that has come on to Mirror Conversation. So this is me. I'm going to sign off. This is Lady O. Stay in action with faith and possibility. Walk in and protect your light. Your purpose will find you. Say what you mean and live like you mean what you say.
And love. Don't forget to love. It's so important.
Oh, you're
Spread a
still
little love.
around. You're still around. I thought we disconnected. Sorry, Brother Andy. I was because I heard the voice. I'm like, who is that? Sorry, what were you saying?
I said, and stay in love. Don't forget to stay in love and spread a little love. It's important.
Of course, of course, of course. Thank you, Brother Andy. I thought you had disconnected. So you're still in the green room. No worries. All right, we'll talk later. Have a wonderful rest of your night, Brother Andy.
Good night.
Okay, bye bye.